I hope everybody's back. And Erin just started the recording. I was going to do it.
She,
She doesn't trust me. So this morning we have two of our instructors from on that are, let's call them veteran instructors or seasoned instructors. They've been through the battles, and they are people that are really good at teaching in the online virtual world, and they spent some time thinking about how do you actually grade and how do you tell students what your expectations are and that kind of thing. So, and we do that, or you can do that using rubrics in online. You can use them in seated class as well, but they've been using them online as well. So, um, Jessica Brown is a veteran biology instructor. I won't say how veteran. Misty
What he's
is,
saying is that I was sitting in the same new faculty orientation sessions 20 years ago this week.
yeah.
So that's what
Um,
he's trying to be really nice and say.
Misty has been teaching with us for I don't know how long Misty's been here. You haven't, Misty. I've been here longer than you, haven't I? Misty teaches early
yeah,
childhood, so
I'm not
Misty's
double
not as
digits
veteran as
yet.
Jessica. Do what?
I'm not double digits yet there.
Oh, okay, yeah. I'm
A
at
little over
11 and a half,
7.
so yeah.
Okay, I'm at
So
7.5. Yeah.
okay, so you're getting there. So um, I'm gonna let them do it. So y'all go for it. Enjoy yourself. I will be hanging out if you need anything, but y'all do it. I'm gonna mute myself.
Okay.
All right. The plan for today has changed since we both started this for y'all. Our original intention today, being with y'all in person, was to do a little bit more hands on and answer questions and let y'all have some practice doing this rubrics. Doesn't work as well in a virtual session, but we're going to make lemonade out of the lemons that we have been given. So, kind of an overview of what we're going to do today. I'm going to start out, I'm going to spend a little time talking about rubrics and then how to create the rubrics. I'm going to give you a couple of examples of the ones that I've done in my class. Then I'm going to pass the baton off to Misty. She's going to talk about importing and exporting rubrics. And then we are actually going to open up the rest of the time kind of as a question and answer session um, to be able to answer some questions for y'all. So, when we get started, this is a perfect segue that Rodney didn't even plan to talk about those teaching and learning communities because my being here to talk to you about this today is a direct result of one of those teaching and learning communities. And I will fully admit, it was an afternoon meeting. I was looking about as forward to going to that afternoon teaching and learning community meeting as you would be going to the dentist, something like that. I was not in a very, very good mood to be able to do that day and showed up. I try and anything that I go to, take one thing from it. And so I was like, I'm going to get one good thing. Another instructor started talking about rubrics because my feeling about rubrics and Blackboard was like, I don't have time to do that. Whatever. And she showed it. It was so life changing that I came back and not only completely changed my courses to use these rubrics, I told everybody and anybody in our department that we could. I've converted multiple people to using these rubrics. It's a situation of working smarter, not harder. So, to get started, like any good teacher, what do y'all know about rubrics? What are your feelings? If I ask you and say the word rubric, what do y'all think about?
I like rubrics because the student knows what you expect for that assignment. So I like to use them so that they have a good outline of what the assignment involves.
Awesome. Yes. That is something very good for the student to be able to know. I saw the comment popped up about being able, it's a guide for grading. The rubrics are also very good to help you make sure that you are consistent. We're humans. We have biases, even if they're unintentional biases, and rubrics really do help us to be able to make sure that we're applying the same standards to everybody. What other thoughts about rubrics do we have? Oh, come on. Nobody has any other thoughts or ideas?
Can be used multiple times.
Yes. What we are going to show you today in being able to do this, it is more work up front. You have
Mhm.
to think through your assignments. You have to plan through your assignments to get this done. But once you do the upfront work, y'all, it really makes it so much easier to be able to do this. It's kind of a click and be able to do. The other thing the math and science department really likes to do with our online classes is once a week or one assignment a week, be able to give students individualized feedback. Um, Instead of it being all automated, they take a quiz, they get an answer back. It does allow for some back and forth in an online environment so they don't feel like they're talking to a screen all the time, that they get some information back. So, what I'm going to do is go ahead and share my screen and take you into a course and walk you through this rubric process and how to do this. I'm going to give you a whole lot of information, and honestly, I'd rather y'all just kind of watch, and then we can provide you with, through Amanda and everybody, how to do each one of these steps. It seems like a lot to start off with, but once you get in and get the hang of it, it's really easy. So when you go into your course, you will come down to course tools. This is a huge long list. What we're doing is going into one of my fall classes from last year so that you can kind of see in a class what it looks like. So what you're going to do is you're going to scroll all the way down and up comes rubrics. So in this particular class, you can see up at the top, it takes you to the rubric and it gives you, the fact that they will help to ensure consistent and impartial grading and help students to focus on your expectations. This is what they're for. We're going to come back and look at, here is the create the rubric, and then we have import a rubric, and that's the part that Missy's going to talk just a little bit more about. But what I wanted you to go in and see, I wanted you to see a couple and how I use them. The first one that I'm going to show you is for histology lab. When you are going in and doing your rubrics, Misty is going to show you some for discussion board. These are for submitted labs, so it's just a little bit different when you go in and look at these. And the way that the math and science have kind of gone in and divided things when we are asking students, do they not meet the expectations of what was outlined in the lab? Did they meet the expectations or did they exceed the expectations? I use a points-based assessment for my students. I'm going to show you the difference between the points and the percentages in just a few minutes. So this is one specifically that goes in and they have a lab where they have to submit things. So this particular lab, you can see the first part of it, they had to do an online quiz and submit a screenshot of their quiz score, really just proving whether they had done that or not. And you can see that the does not meet expectations is anything below a 50, which would not meet expectations of passing in a classroom setting. The meets expectations is anywhere between, I have set it between 51 and 95 points, and the exceed expectations is anything 95 plus. Now, what I wanted you to be able to see is we tell in the rubric, and this is where you change things and you put things in, what the student must do to get the points or the percentage so that they know. So they had to come up with a tissue ID chart to where they had to identify some tissues. So you can see if they were to meet the does not meet expectations. The reason that it would be is it was incomplete, or they identified tissues wrong, or it was an incomplete chart with the tissues and functions. You can see that to meet the expectations, it was complete. There might have been a couple of minor mistakes, and the exceeds expectations for that would be correctly identifying the tissues to complete the chart. But each one of these you can see has the ability to go in and show the student exactly where it is. One thing that I also want you to see that we're going to see in a setup is you can choose the number of points. So let's say that the student submitted one of those quizzes that had an 85 on it. I can choose 8.5 points for that. It's not a set something to be able to do. So this gives you an example of one of the rubrics that are going to be in a class. So what I wanted to do is go through and show you how you would create one, a rubric. And then I'm going to go in and show you a rubric in an assignment, and it's actually the histology lab. I found one to be able to show you where I had graded a student last semester so that you can see that. But before I do that, any questions? Okay, no questions. When we go in to create a rubric, what you are going to do is you first go in and you're going to name your rubric. So I had a histology lab. This is important for what Misty is going to talk about in just a few minutes so that you know what your rubric is. It needs to make sense for whatever type of nomenclature you do so that you can use these in multiple classes if you need to as well. But you just go in and you name it. You can also put description in there if that's going to help you to be able to find what you need in a list of all of your rubrics. So the next part is the rubric detail. And this is where you can start to make choices and modify. This is completely modifiable for however your created rubric is going to work. So the first thing that you can do is do your rubric type. This is the default that it will always come to when you're creating a new rubric each and every single time. So the choices that you can see here, you can do no points. You can do just points, which means it's kind of, those rubrics lend to a yes, no, or a student did or did not do something, because you can't, you have to give them either 0 points or no points, or full points for whichever one of those sections that you want to do. Points range is what I showed you on the other rubric, where you can do a range, 1 to 10, 10 to 20, 15 to 20, however you need to make it work for your class. And the percent and the percent range is the same thing as the points. It just does it as a percentage. So again, these are totally customizable for whatever rubric you have for your class. So if we chose a points range, you see it automatically changes the rubric when you're setting it up. So just going back to show you that again, the points, you could either give 5 points, 10 points, 15 points, whatever it is. But with the points range, then you can choose what you want to be able to assign the students when you're grading. So that's kind of a decision that you need to know or have made as you're setting this up. Then you can come in and you can change the criteria. So you just come in and you can edit, and say you don't want to use formatting. This is very much like set up for an English paper that's been set in. You can put in that you want it to be question 1, because that is the first part that you want to be able to grade. And then you just hit save. And then you can choose whatever points you want, if it's a novice, competent, proficient. Again, you can change these, and that's what I had changed for our department, to where we have meets standards, and then you just hit save, and you see how easy it is to be able to change that. Now, you noticed on my rubric that there were 4 columns. So you can very easily go back in and just click add column, and there's your new column. If you want to remove the column, it goes along the same exact way. You just come up and you hit delete column, and it goes away. You can add a row. So you saw my rubric had multiple things on it. Same thing, it pops down here on the bottom. You can also delete one of those if you do not need it. The second part of this is where you give students the information. So for meeting standards, you can give them information. And then when you get done with all of this, you are just going to click submit, and it will allow you to be able to save this rubric and then be able to use it in other places. So that's just a quick overview. Questions about this part before I move on and show you it in use in a class? Everybody good? Or everybody's just ready for lunch?
One quick question. So
Yes.
with the points range, so if you had, let's say, 5 to 10 as your range and the student gets 7, will you be able to just click 7 whenever it shows up? I
Yes,
guess that
and
would be the other screen.
yes, ma'am, and I'm going to show you that in just a minute. I have one set up to be able to do that. Yes.
Oh, okay. All right. Thanks.
Yes, ma'am.
Mhm.
Great question. Other questions about just the actual rubric and how to create it? Okay, I am going to pop over, and again, this is the same histology lab. So I have my students submit these. I don't know how much y'all have done in Blackboard or if you're familiar with it yet or not. So this is the lab, and I told you they had to send me a screenshot. So you see this student made 100 on this. So there are 2 ways to go in and be able to grade. I have found it depends on if you have a computer with a double monitor. There's one way that works better than the other. So I'm going to show you both ways to be able to grade these. If you do not have a computer with a double monitor, if you notice right here where the student's grade is going to be, it says grade by rubric. So this is the part that Misty's going to show you how to bring this in and how to do this in just a minute and put it with your assignment. So this is already in place. So I've already created that rubric that you saw earlier. So I can do one of 2 things. I can click directly. You can see that it has a link. And when I click on this, this then brings up the rubric that I created. So I can go along in here and grade each one of the labs. So the question that you asked earlier, because I used the points range, this particular student exceeded expectations because she got 100 on there, but let's say that she did not. So when I click on this meet expectations, you notice there's a drop down box. So then I can choose the different levels based on the way that it is set up for you to be able to do. So there's your question that you ask if they got a 7. You see that I can click on that and be able to give the 7 with the points range for this.
Okay, thanks.
Now, does that make sense to be able to see how that works?
Mhm.
Okay. Now, there are 2 other options that you can choose. This is the default that you see that comes up. You can also click on show descriptions, and then you can see what you put in to the rubric. So if you're like, oh, I can't remember what it was, but then once you've graded 5 of those, if you don't want to see, because then you have to scroll lots and lots and lots farther down, you can unclick that and it does not show the description anymore. The other thing that you can do, and this is what we like for our students, You can then, when you are grading, leave direct feedback to the student. So I actually chose this one because I had left feedback for the student. This particular student did not, for this section, the organ claim, um, did not earn full points. I like to tell my students, okay, this is why you did not do that, so that you can get feedback for that. I also will type on the actual submission as well, to be able to give them additional information. But what I wanted this student to know was that the organ was correctly identified, but the second part of that, they did not support the reason why. And that's what got them from the exceeds expectation category to meets expectation category. So this is really nice because you can go through, you can leave feedback for everyone, then you hit rubric. Let me just make sure. Yeah, that's still. You can hit save rubric when you get done, and then the student can go back in and review all of your information. I like to leave a comment for my students, and I usually tell them, please see the grading rubric for additional information. This student did really good, so I also gave them the encouraging, you did a great job. This is a great lab. So that is one way that you can grade. That's great if you have a single screen and you're doing it. My favorite way to grade is you also see over here on this side, you've got it looks like two windows. And so it's called grade rubric in a window. And when you click on this, what pops up is something that looks very similar to the rubric that you created earlier. So what I actually do is when I grade this, I take this particular screen and I drag it to my second window. And then I have their lab open, and I am literally going through and grading and clicking. You just click on each one of these and you see it does the same thing to where you can have that same drop down box, or you can give them full credit depending on what it is. And you can also type in this. It has right there when you click on which category it falls under to be able to give feedback. So my favorite way to grade is, if I have two screens, is to pull this up, move this to the second screen while at the same time I have their lab in front of me, and I can also comment on the lab as well. It does the same thing. You can leave additional feedback to the learner down here at the bottom if you need to. You just hit save and it brings you right back to this. It automatically populates. You don't have to do the calculation. Y'all, I am a biologist for a reason. We don't do math. And so I don't have to worry about messing the math up. It automatically calculates it for me. And then when I get done with this, I hit submit. And then it is going to actually bring up the next lab for me to be able to grade if I was grading these in line. This is from a previous semester, so everything is already done. Any questions? I've either bored you to tears or I've made you really excited about how you can grade super efficiently, but provide students with detailed feedback on their assignments.
And that was good, Jessica. What a great start.
All right,
so
take it away,
after
Misty.
I start, okay, sorry, I didn't ask you for a question. I just
No,
butted
take it
in.
away.
I keep getting kicked out. So after I start sharing my screen, I think I'm going to take my video off because I'm having some sort of connection issues. I keep getting booted out. So we'll see what we can get to here. But to kind of jump off of what Jessica shared with you, I'm going to share a discussion board rubric that I use kind of across the board with my classes. And so it may be something, if you have online classes that you will use discussion boards with, I'm happy to share this one for you. So, fingers crossed as I try to share my screen here. Okay, let's see. I think you'll see my whole screen at first, but let me take you over to my Blackboard. you can all see that. So this is actually a class that I'm getting ready to teach starting in August, and I already have my discussion board set up in here. And so I'm going to share the rubric with you first. And so again, I've already clicked Course Tools. We go under Course Tools, and then the whole way down to Rubrics. This is the new one, my most recent one. So let me open it up and show you how I've set mine up. So I can see my title is the Davin discussion board rubric. So I put the year so that I know that I've kind of updated it as I need to. I like point ranges. And so you can see that I've done point ranges for each of the categories. And so I try to be very specific. And so the criteria are things like, did they answer the question that you posed? Did they respond specifically and not go off on a tangent? The length of response, and as you can see, I even try to get very specific about how many words that they have, and how many students they should apply to, because as we are doing these online courses, we want it to be a conversation. It's supposed to replace the conversation that we would have in a classroom. And so how the education department sets it up is that students need to post an initial response and then reply to 2 other students. And so underneath this category length of response, you can see that's very specific. Here, if they respond to 2, how many words they use their first initial post, and then going down to novice. If they just put, yeah, I agree with you, they're not going to get very many points. We look at their grammar, their spelling, and then this one is that I found very useful. I believe I stole it off of another instructor, but their initial post. Prior to me adding this criteria to my discussion board, every week I would have that last minute dash for students logging on and trying to complete their discussion board, an hour before it was due. So they're doing their initial post and they're doing their replies just in a hurried manner the last day that it's open. And so what I've done is created, and you can see that this particular row, it's almost like there's no point range. It's very, clear and concise. If you wait until the very day to do your initial post and reply to 2 others, then you're only going to get 5 points, the 25 points that you can earn for that criteria. And what I've noticed is that it gets students to make that initial post sooner, and then it creates more of a conversation rather than just trying to find somebody to reply to so that you meet the criteria of responding to 2 other classes. I'm definitely going to share this with Erin. I heard that they're going to create a folder so that you have access to all this information. So if you use discussion boards in your courses, you can tweak it to however works best for you. So that's what I have already set up in EDU 271. But let's say that I want to use it in another class and I don't want to have to retype everything. Well, I can do that. And so you see I have it selected. And let's see, I'm going to click export. So I'm going to export this rubric and save it on my computer. Okay. And my computer's being kind of slow. So export it to my computer. We're still thinking here. Okay. All right, so I'm going to save the file, and you can see it's a zip file, and that's how it'll show on your computer as well. Okay, so I have exported that. Let me go to a class I haven't updated yet. And let's see, I'll go down to 144. Okay, so let me go down to course tools because now I want to put that particular rubric inside of this class. Scroll down to rubrics. And so you can see I have an old rubric in here. So I want to import the one that I just did in my other class. So I'm going to browse local files because I saved it on my computer. Okay. Submit. It usually takes, but it will say at the top that it has been imported. It was successful. So now when I look at my list, you can see here's the Davin discussion board rubric that I just imported from my other class. I just did it today. So let's put it to work. Okay, so I have it, but all of my discussion boards that I have set for this course, it's using the old one. So I'm going to go to my discussion boards. Okay. And let me just go to discussion board 1. So you can see this is the welcome discussion board, and you can see that I haven't deleted the old posts yet, but that's okay, I still edit it. So underneath discussion boards, I'm going to do the drop down and edit. And like Jessica said, I know that we're kind of going through this quickly. We wanted to do this hands-on with you all, but I think you'll get the gist of it. And I think once you start messing with it on your own, you'll see it's really friendly. So here's discussion board 1 that I want.
No, I'm caring about rubrics.
And I wanted to show you something else.
I don't understand them.
Underneath forum settings, you can choose standard view or participant view. Standard view means that as students log into their discussion board, they can see what everybody else has already posted. Okay. Now, you know, either way is fine. I tend to see that if I have my discussion board under standard view, that students will go in and see what everybody else has posted and then post it as much like the ones that they saw. So it's almost like you get a lot of posts that kind of say the thing. If you click under participants must create a thread in order to view other threads, this avoids that problem, because that means that when they are to do their discussion board, they click on discussion board, they see, you know, what they have to respond to. They can't see anybody's post until they make their own. Once they submit their first post, then they can see everybody else's post that has already submitted there. And you'll get more of an individualized discussion going on rather than, oh yeah, I love what she put, that's a great idea, I'm going to type something like that as well for my post. So personally, that's just something that I like to do. Now, as we continue to scroll down, you can see that you can have rubrics that you don't grade. I grade mine. And if you remember from my rubric, my points are set 100. So I make my form worth 100 points. Now, when we look at the rubric, associated rubrics, this is the old rubric. I don't want this one anymore. And so I'm going to get rid of it. and I'm going to add a rubric. So select a rubric, and remember it was Davin 2021. And so you can see this is the one that I just added today. I go over, click it, submit it. Come on, computer, you can do it. So the screen comes up just reminding me, okay, make sure that your maximum point possible equals what's on the rubric, and it does, because I have 100 here, and I know that the rubric is worth 100. So now I have Davin Discussion Board Rubric 2021 is going to be used for grading. I'm over here, and it says show rubric to students. You can say no. You can say with rubric scores, without rubric scores, or after the grading is over. And I always show mine with rubric scores so that students know exactly, they can see it while they're in the discussion board. They know what's going to be expected of them. And then everything else, and I think Jessica will agree, everything else below here, I leave the same. Like, I know you can do different things about allowing file attachments. It really just depends on what you need for your class. So I submit that. And now I have my new discussion, which I did not even have to retype, put into a completely different class. Okay, so let me come back here. Okay. I hope that everybody was able to hear that. I know I'm having some connection issues. Can you all still hear me okay?
Yes.
Okay. All right. I know that my thing keeps going in the red. Okay. I know that was really fast, but just knowing that there is a trick that if you get a discussion board in one of your classes that can easily transfer to other classes, there's a way to do it without retyping it. And I'm sure Jessica feels the same. Like, if you have any questions, we would be more than happy to help you along the way. Or like I said, we're going to share some of our rubrics so that you have those available to you if you need to tweak them, but at least you're not starting off like with zero. You have something to kind of start off the semester with. All right, I know I went really fast, and I hope I didn't cut off a whole bunch. Are there any questions about that part or rubrics in general that we can help you with?
Looks like you guys dazzled them with your rubrics, and you answered all their questions. That, or they're just really hungry and they want to go to lunch.
I do realize that you feel like you're drinking from a fire hose this week. And I often feel that when I go to this, I am like, oh, that is so good, and I need to use that. And then when I get back and try and do it, then I'm overwhelmed and I can't remember anything. So just like Misty said, in 2 weeks, when y'all can breathe again and are getting your head maybe kind of back above water, either one of us is free to meet with y'all one-on-one. We can do it virtually. We can do it in person. We can walk through all of this with you. Just know that they're there, and it is truly a situation of working smarter, not harder. As confusing, again, I came to this going, rubrics are not for me. This is a waste of time. And it was so life-changing that I went back, and you can ask my department chair and everybody else. I'm like, you have to use this. And I finally convinced them as well. So we're here for questions. And if you have a question about something else, again, I love how they called us veteran. We're old. We've been doing this a long time online. If you have any questions about that, I'm more than willing to let you know what I have tried, what has not worked, and how many times I have failed to get to where we are now. So we'll
That's
open it up
right.
for questions and go from there.
I think they're just really hungry.
Either that
That's me
or we were so
24/7.
we were so awful we just left them speechless.
Yeah.
Thank you guys for doing this. Hey, listen, these two
Yeah.
guys are not on contract. They're here helping you guys, taking time on their last Friday of the summer off, right?
Woo.
To help you guys. I know that makes you sad, Misty. I'm sorry. And we really appreciate you guys coming in and doing this for us. And I'm looking forward to seeing you next Wednesday on campus. How's that? So,
Yep.
Well, you
I
know,
can't
Rodney,
wait.
I'm all professional up here on the top, but you know what pants I have on and what I finished doing right before this and where I'm headed as soon as we get done.
Title IX. Don't start with none of that.
Yep. Yep.
All right, guys.
Too funny.
Erin wanted me to remind everybody. Thank you guys for coming this morning, but she wanted me to remind everybody this afternoon at 1 o'clock, this Blackboard link will be active again, and that you guys have some time where you can start working on your courses. It's not required that you come to the Blackboard link, but if you have questions in Blackboard or for any of us, please just jump into the Blackboard Collaborate session and hit one of us up and we will answer your questions. It'll be monitored this afternoon. So, oh, there's a new link that, okay, so it's the DE office hours link for this afternoon. It is in the calendar invite for this afternoon. So I feel like I'm reading from I need one of those earpieces, so that Aaron can feed me what to say. So thanks, guys. We'll see you guys this afternoon. Have a good lunch.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jess. See you Wednesday.
All right, bye.
Bye. See you some, who knows how long, next week.
Next week.